Well, good morning. This morning we read Daniel and chapter 9. And Daniel prays and confesses the sins of himself and his people. This is quite challenging for us as evangelicals because Daniel here is a righteous man. He lives right before God, and yet he confesses sins. I think we need to acknowledge that we have overemphasized a personal salvation. We have made the gospel just between us and God on an individual level, but actually it's a corporate thing. It's about all of the people of God. We are part of a church of God, a nation of God, called by God. And Daniel says that the church, Israel, had not been faithful to the Lord, and he was repenting of it. We need to also acknowledge that we are part of a church, and we all together need to be faithful to the Lord. It's good to have a personal piety, but Daniel's personal piety was not enough to save him. Daniel's personal piety was not enough to make his situation right with God. He was part of a community. We need to acknowledge the church as a community and work together and strive together to be a holy people, confessing the sins of our corporate action and inaction. This is a challenging prayer for us because we have so emphasized a personal salvation that we have neglected to see that we are our brother's keeper, that we are responsible for each other. We are responsible for the poor decisions that God's people have made, and that we have failed to corporately, properly represent him. This is especially true in a Baptist church where it is the church meeting that has the power. Each of us are responsible for the decisions made in church meetings. Each of us are equally responsible for the witness of the entire church. So Daniel here spends time confessing the sins of his people, his own personal sin, but actually the sins of the people, the corporate failure. Brothers and sisters, we need to look honestly, not just at our own life, but at our life as a corporate entity, the Church of God, and confess our failings and call out to the Lord to have mercy and to forgive. There's a lot of confusion about the last part of this chapter, the 77s. It links to the first verse. Or the second verse rather. He understood that the prophecy to Jeremiah meant 70 years in exile, and so the 70 weeks are the period that those 70 years before the holy city is restored, before the time has passed that their wickedness has been atoned for, and they return to the Lord. And then it goes on to prophesy about the coming of the Messiah. And it says the Messiah will be put to death and will have nothing. He doesn't seem to achieve much. And then comes a ruler of the people who will destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the abomination that causes desolation is set up. You recognize that phrase from Jesus speaking in Matthew 24. The abomination that causes desolation set up in the holy place. And of course that was fulfilled when Titus invaded Jerusalem and set up the Roman banner, the Roman standard in the Holy of Holies. And the Roman soldiers worshipped the standard there. The abomination that causes desolation. God's people were split and sent around the world, scattered. The temple was no more. The Messiah died. The temple was destroyed. These things have been fulfilled. This prophecy has been faithfully kept. The 70 years they returned to the city. Then after that came the ruler, the anointed one. And after that came the end of temporal worship, just as Daniel prophesied.